Well, good morning, everyone. Here I am, as promised, to talk to you about the discussion board. I was going to go over week 2 and week 3, but then I realized I would be ranting on forever, something I'm sure you don't need. But oh, that was Opal running by. The animals are all wild this morning. Um, but I do want to talk about the week 3 DVDs, and then we'll go ahead and move forward. So I want to start with something that Brittany said, because Brittany, this really, I hope everybody read your comment, and if not, they're going to hear it right now. You said, after you looked at everybody reading this thread about the SETT tool, you said things do not have to be complicated to be effective. And boy, is that a mouthful right there. And that's something that we all need to remember related to education, life, relationships, everything. Things do not have to be complicated to be effective. We have a tendency in education, or the powers that be do, to complicate things. And sometimes as teachers, we are running in so many different directions trying to fit everything in that, they feel that we um, need. And oftentimes it does feel overcomplicated and not streamlined. And that's one of the things that I love about, the SET, is that it's a streamlined assessment for the collaborative team, for the students team, for the people that are working on the IEP, for teachers that are providing input. And so I think it's very important to remember that things don't have to be complicated to be effective. And Maricela, you had brought up that any teachers with limited experience with the SET, they should be careful or cautious, and absolutely they should. But here's the thing. You don't want to have limited experience. You want to know these things. This is part of, for our special education students, making sure that we have all the tools in play to make their experience a better one in education, and to legally offer them support as we continue on. So you're right, people shouldn't be doing things willy-nilly. This should be part of a collaborative conversation with the team that's there to support the student in the IEP process. So, we as educators, we have to become knowledgeable. And if we're not knowledgeable, we need to become knowledgeable. I mean, that's our job, that's our responsibility. And it's the same as, now that we're starting to see all of this move with the kids with digital technology. We have to find ways to move forward and look for things that are going to help our students, which brings me to David. David, thank you for bringing up in the discussion board the Docs add-on, sorry, Reader and the Chrome extension Read and Write. And it was funny you said the thing about Reader, about the British voice, that they love the British voice talking to them, because my husband, his GPS, he always has the British voice on because he likes it better than the American one, which cracks me up. And I've always thought it would be cool if, maybe you should come up with this, David, if they had other voices besides just, the standard AI voices. Like you could have Darth Vader, or you could have one of the Martians from Toy Story or whatever. I thought it'd be a fun way to get kids to, want to participate more in that, in reading and writing. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I don't know if I said in a video before or whatever, but when I've had students, especially in high school, that break hands or break arms playing sports, I'll have them use programs where they can speak into the computer as they write, and it will audio text basically their writing for them so that they can continue on with their studies in class and not fall behind and not feel stressed out. So it's really great that you brought that up. Thank you. Um, let's see. Morgan, you had said, back to the SET, and I already addressed this, but I just wanted to say I noticed that you said in conjunction with the IEP, and I agree. I think that's fabulous. And Jeffrey, you brought up that, it focuses on the strengths of the students. And something that I was told many, many years ago by somebody, a friend who's a psychiatrist and a counselor, and counseled vets with post-traumatic stress syndrome and such that. She said that, and she was talking about relationships, but this goes for students as well. She said, if you're constantly harping on the negative with someone, if you're constantly, say, telling your husband you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, and doing the negative, she said, it just starts to no, they can't hear it. They can't hear it anymore. And you've got to find a positive. You've got to find a positive to hang on to support. And it's not always, that's not always easy. I love to be positive with my students, but I get when it's very frustrating when somebody's like Curious George and they do 20 things wrong and then only one thing right, and then you praise. But all research shows that praise is building you up, and negative self-talk or negative talk or chatter from other people is going to just keep bringing you down. And I think with our students, we're dealing with children, and we have to find a way to be positive and to find positive, attributes to help build them up. And when we do find negative, we have to say things like, well, you don't be hard on yourself. Let's look at this. What could you have done differently? Or, when I was your age, I did, something like this. I had a student yesterday who came to my class. Um, uh, wow. She came to my class, and I almost thought that she was drunk. She was so emotionally distraught and so wound and so tight within herself from something that happened that even the way her body was moving looked like she was gonna faint. And so, everybody was comforting her. And then I got everybody set up and I said, so and so, go outside for a minute, catch a breather. Let me get everybody set up, and then I'm going to come out there, because I wanted to give her a moment to kind of calm down. She was so wound. When I went outside, she wasn't willing to talk to me at that time about, what had happened. She was very closed in. But she did say something that, was really hard to hear. She said, I mess everything up. I always mess everything up. And she doesn't. And this was not a plea for attention. This was not her being an overly dramatic high school student. There was something about her demeanor and the way she said it that she really believed it to her core at that moment. And usually when students are wound up like that, I'll say, take a moment, wash your face, get a drink of water. I have the bathrooms right by my bungalow. Walk the track. I also have that right by my bungalow, and I can see them. Take a breather, get some air. And I actually was really concerned about even letting her out of my sight, at that moment, because she really did believe I mess everything up. And I think we have to remember as educators that there are a lot of kids coming in that feel that way. And there are a lot of kids that come in that don't have the parent support that we'd like to see. And that brings me to what Barbara was saying, whose side do you think we're on? That you want to say that to the parents sometimes. Whose side do you think we're on? Well, obviously we're on the student's side, and what the parents, some parents, have a hard time dealing with, and I've talked about this before, talk about ego, is that we're with these kids sometimes more than they're with their kids. And it's not because they don't want to be with their kids. They're working, they're doing other things. I mean, my gosh, my children were with their students and at school, more, even though we were on the same campus, they were with their people more than they were with me a lot of the times. And we really see, a lot with what's going on, with their kids, the whole story being pulled back. We're not in that emotional center. And any of you that are parents in here know a lot of times it's easier to be patient with your students than it is to be patient with your own children. And I remember that with my own kids, because there's this emotional attachment to it. There's this ego attached to it. And, we see it all the time with parents, whose side are you on? And Courtney, the parents that, aren't willing to, support their child and getting the assistance they need. And it's very interesting, but ego, fear, all sorts of things. I have a friend, Harvard graduate, unbelievably amazing lawyer, worked for MTV in the beginning stages, Viacom and all that. I mean, Paramount. We're talking like this massively successful, intelligent human being that I adore. And her and her husband are adopted his grandchild. So he had a daughter from a previous marriage, and they adopted the granddaughter because the mom is dealing with addiction. And hang on one second. Hang on one second, people. What's happening? No, you guys stay there. Sorry, the cat was going after. I could hear a jay going crazy because cat was outside, so there must be a nest somewhere. But anyways, so her husband's daughter from another marriage, she's dealing with addiction. It kept happening for years after years, so they decided to legally adopt the grandchild, which the daughter wanted. I mean, she was willing to give the baby up. And their granddaughter is autistic. And when they first brought her to my house, when she was a toddler, I knew right away, as we always do as teachers, we can assess a situation pretty quickly. And they were really struggling with modifications and such just in the family. And my friend was like, how are you able to, do these things with her and she's reacting so well to you? And I didn't want to say, well, because I know what to do with my autistic students, because they were in denial about what was happening. And like I said, it's not that this person was, this was a smart, educated person. But when I delved deeper into what was going on, there were several things that were going on. One, there was ego related to it, on the father's side. He didn't want to believe that the granddaughter was different in any way. He saw this difference as a complete negative. He was fearful that once she was identified in the situation, she would be tagged and tracked, and therefore it would limit her opportunities through life if she was, tagged as an autistic student, or identified as an autistic student. And there was a lot of fear in there. And so they weren't necessarily willing in the beginning to do what they needed to do to get this child the things that she needed to be successful in education. And I remember them calling me when she first got into school and just saying these things. I was just very stunned. These teachers, they don't know what they're doing, and there's nothing, wrong with our child, and she's hitting people because they're being mean to her. And there was all these really interesting and intense dramatic stories. And it took a lot of conversations and calm conversations through the staff at school, with the principal, the teachers, the counselors. The parents would come back, and, I'm not even related to that school district. It's up in Los Angeles, but I would talk to them and calm them down and kind of help them to see our side of things and how they could help this child. It took a good solid 2 years, and she's finally identified and mainstreamed and doing well. And they're, learning how to, you know, uh, figure this out now. But I'm just saying that, when Barbara said whose, side are the parents on, and Mikau or Michelle, you'll have to tell me how to pronounce that because I know it can be pronounced two kind of ways. You brought up parent support as well. And Courtney, of course, the parents refusing support. And so, we have to look at the reasons why. We have to look at the reasons why and kind of go behind and find if there's a way that we can diffuse the situation as a team to better support the students. And that's not always easy. It's not always going to work. But if you come from that place, and remember, a lot of times parents are fearful of accepting, and refusing because one, ego wise, maybe they can't accept that their child might be different, that they might need extra assistance, that you may know more than them in this situation. I mean, those are all big pills to swallow, when you're a parent and everything's so emotionally charged, and your kids are, so much, a part of you. So just some things to think about. when you're talking about parent support, but just know sometimes you're just going to get people that they are in a fixed mindset about this, and you're not going to get a growth mindset. I mean, all as we can do is do the best that we can as educators, and offer as much as support as we can, and take the moral high road as much as we possibly can for the benefit of our students. And after you have done absolutely everything you can possibly do to be supportive, there's that's it. You've done your part. Your side of the street is clean. And back to what Brittany said, things do not have to be complicated to be effective. So all as you can do is lay out everything as calmly and kindly as you can, and try your best to support that student. And if it doesn't happen, like Courtney, like in your case, let's hope the parents come around in a year from now or 2 years from now. I know that's not the best for a student, but as I just told you in my story with my friend, it took them a while before they could get to the place where they could accept what was going on with their child. So I want you to all have a wonderful weekend. I will not be chatting at you again. Don't forget your DBs are due tonight, your responses for week 4 on or before 11:59 p.m. Follow-up responses before Sunday, and I will talk at you again next week. And have a wonderful weekend. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.